Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a world where failure is nothing more than a myth, a rumor you've heard but never experienced. Tonight, I invite you to step into that world. This isn't fantasy, it's a mindset, a discipline, a way of living that transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary ones. The mindset of certainty is a powerful force that reshapes the way you approach every challenge and opportunity. When you act as if failure is impossible, you begin to carry yourself differently. Your posture changes, your voice gains strength, your thoughts shift from timid questioning to decisive action. This isn't about pretending reality doesn't contain obstacles. It's about refusing to let the idea of defeat decide your actions before you even start. Most people hesitate because they imagine every way things could go wrong. They rehearse failure in their minds long before they take their first step. But when you adopt a mindset of certainty, you stop rehearsing defeat and start rehearsing victory. You picture yourself succeeding until it becomes the only outcome that feels natural. Imagine walking into a room knowing that every person you meet will say yes to your idea. Even if they don't, your inner belief remains unshaken, and you present yourself with the confidence of someone who expects success. That energy is contagious. People respond to it because it signals leadership and conviction. Opportunities often go to those who act as though the outcome is already settled in their favor. Certainty is not arrogance. It's a calm inner knowing that whatever happens, you will find a way forward. This conviction pushes you to speak more clearly, to make decisions without delay, and to approach every task with an unbreakable spirit. This mindset transforms obstacles into stepping stones. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you start asking, "What's the next move to win?" That single shift opens possibilities you would never see if you were fixated on fear. When you stop believing failure has power, setbacks become signals. They guide you toward adjustments, improvements, and better strategies. You don't dwell on them because you've already decided they cannot define you. Each challenge becomes part of a process you've already claimed as victorious. Certainty feeds discipline. When you know in your core that success is inevitable, you show up differently. You keep practicing when others quit. You stay late, study harder, and fine-tune your craft, because you are not negotiating with doubt. Discipline stops being a chore and becomes the natural expression of someone who knows where they're going. Your habits align with your vision because there is no alternative. You wake up and work because success is not a question, it's a destination already chosen. The world often mirrors your own belief. If you move through life expecting rejection, you notice every no and call it proof. But if you walk with the certainty that your ideas matter and your work will find its place, you start to attract the right people, resources, and opportunities. Your inner state sets the tone for how others treat you and how you interpret every event. Certainty then is not just a mental attitude, it becomes a practical advantage. Developing this mindset requires practice. You build it by taking small steps where you act with confidence even when you feel nervous. Each time you choose action over hesitation, you prove to yourself that you can trust your own strength. Over time, this trust deepens until it feels natural to move with confidence. Acting as if failure doesn't exist doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you embrace the truth that you have the power to respond, adapt, and ultimately succeed no matter what comes. With this certainty, the idea of failure loses its hold, and what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Vision is the seed from which every great achievement is born. Before any invention, any empire, any masterpiece, there was first a picture in someone's mind that did not yet exist in the physical world. The human mind has been given the remarkable ability to imagine, to construct entire realities before they ever touch the soil of existence. To act as if failure doesn't exist, one must first live in the clarity of vision, holding it so firmly that the external world is eventually forced to conform. Every successful individual throughout history carried their vision before the world ever recognized it. They lived inside it long before anyone else could see it. This is why people who accomplish great things are often called dreamers at first. But the difference between the idle dreamer and the achiever is action, fueled by unwavering vision. When you see it so vividly in your mind, you begin to move in ways that align with it. You speak differently, think differently, choose differently. And when others around you are blinded by the current limitations, you are guided by the future you've already built in your imagination. The challenge for most people is that they see only what is, not what could be. They are chained to present circumstances, measuring possibilities by what their senses report. But vision goes beyond that. Vision allows you to reach into the invisible, to borrow from the future and live as though it is already real. This is not fantasy. This is the very mechanism of creation. Every structure that stands today, every bridge, every skyscraper, every piece of technology, was once invisible, once nothing more than an image in someone's mind. To dismiss the power of vision is to dismiss the very process of human progress itself. To act as if failure does not exist, you must hold your vision so strongly that it becomes more convincing than doubt. When discouragement knocks, your vision speaks louder. When setbacks arise, your vision pulls you forward. It is the anchor that steadies you in storms and the compass that guides you when paths are unclear. Without vision, obstacles appear permanent. With vision, they shrink into stepping stones. But vision is not merely daydreaming. It is specific. It is deliberate. It has weight and detail. A vague hope is not vision. Saying you want success or happiness is not enough. Vision paints the picture clearly. It allows you to see the colors, the shape, the environment, and the feeling of what you are moving toward. It gives your subconscious mind an exact target to align with. The more vivid the vision, the more natural it becomes to act in accordance with it. And the more you act, the more the world begins to yield. When you begin to live as though the vision is already real, something profound happens. Your energy changes. People notice it. Opportunities respond to it. You begin to attract the resources, relationships, and circumstances that match the frequency of your belief. Others may not understand it at first, but they will feel it. They will sense that you are someone who knows where they are going. That confidence is magnetic, and it comes from the inner certainty of vision. This is why those who lack vision are often tossed about by life, reacting to whatever happens rather than shaping events. They live as victims of chance. But those who carry a vision refuse to be victims. They are creators. They don't wait for the world to change before they believe. They believe first, and then the world changes. So if you want to embody the ruthless secret of acting as if failure doesn't exist, start by building a vision so strong that it becomes more real than your doubts, more persuasive than your fears, and more enduring than your setbacks. Hold it, live it, breathe it, and eventually you will walk into it. Courage over comfort is the quiet engine that drives every breakthrough. Most people crave security, and it's natural to seek the familiar. But the comfort zone is a trap disguised as safety. It whispers that staying where you are is wiser than risking embarrassment or loss. The truth is that every significant achievement stands on the other side of discomfort. Acting as if failure doesn't exist means refusing to let fear dictate your choices. Fear will still appear, it's part of being human, but it doesn't have to steer the wheel. When you decide to step forward, even while your heart pounds, you train yourself to value growth over ease. Growth always asks for payment in discomfort. It demands that you stretch beyond what you already know, that you attempt what you cannot yet guarantee. Think of an athlete pushing through the final rep, a writer staring at a blank page, or an entrepreneur making a bold investment. Each one feels uncertainty, yet they act anyway. That decision to move in spite of unease builds a muscle stronger than any physical one, the muscle of courage. Many people mistake courage for the absence of fear, but courage is action in the presence of fear. If you wait to feel fearless before you begin, you'll never start. The moment you commit to action, you send a message to yourself that progress matters more than comfort. Over time, this practice rewires your mind. What once terrified you becomes routine. Challenges that once looked impossible become your warm-up. Consider how innovation and discovery have always required discomfort. The pioneers who crossed oceans, the scientists who questioned accepted truths, the artists who presented strange new visions, all of them faced criticism and risk. Their courage was not a lack of anxiety, it was a decision to move ahead while anxiety shouted in their ears. They chose forward motion because they valued purpose above personal ease. You hold that same capacity. Daily life offers constant invitations to choose courage. It might be speaking up in a meeting, learning a new skill when you feel behind, or starting a project others doubt. Each small act of bravery compounds. Like interest in a bank account, those choices accumulate until you find yourself capable of things that once felt impossible. Courage becomes a habit, and habits shape destiny. Acting as though failure doesn't exist doesn't mean recklessness. It means understanding that every step, even a misstep, teaches you something vital. You may fall short of a goal, but you gain skill, resilience, and clarity. That learning is never failure, it's data for your next attempt. When you embrace this truth, fear loses its power to paralyze. So when comfort calls, recognize it for what it is, a gentle enemy of growth. Let it remind you to lean into challenge, take the meeting, make the call, share the idea. Each courageous action enlarges your world and proves that you are stronger than the voice of fear. Over time, the habit of courage transforms your life. The comfort zone remains small and predictable. Courage opens doors you never knew existed. The power of assumption is one of the most underestimated forces in personal achievement. It begins in the quiet corners of your own thinking, long before any action is visible to the world. To assume success is not wishful daydreaming or empty hope. It is a deliberate decision to believe in an outcome so fully that your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors naturally align with it. When you hold the assumption that what you desire is already on its way, every choice you make carries the energy of inevitability. You stop asking whether you can and start deciding how you will. This shift may seem subtle, but it transforms the way you approach every challenge, every conversation, and every opportunity. When you truly assume success, you start to notice doors where before you only saw walls. A person who believes in their victory doesn't wait for proof to feel confident. They lead with conviction, creating proof through action. For example, an entrepreneur launching a business might face market uncertainty and financial risk. But the power of assumption keeps them moving forward as though the customers are already lining up. This doesn't mean ignoring practical realities. It means letting belief set the tone for every strategy and decision. They prepare, they plan, but they plan from a place of certainty, not fear. This mindset subtly rewires how the brain operates. Instead of scanning for threats or reasons something might fail, you begin noticing opportunities, patterns, and solutions. Psychologists call this the reticular activating system. Your mind filters information based on what it believes is important. If you assume success, your internal filter is trained to find paths that match that belief. You see potential partners instead of competitors, lessons instead of obstacles, and creative detours instead of dead ends. Your assumption literally shapes your reality because you take actions that fulfill the picture you've already accepted as true. The power of assumption also silences the endless debate between hesitation and action. Many people spend their lives negotiating with their fears. Should I try this? What if it doesn't work? What will people think? But when you operate as though success is inevitable, those questions lose their grip. The focus shifts from if to when, from maybe to next. That mental certainty fuels persistence. Setbacks stop being verdicts. They become data points, signals guiding your next move. You no longer collapse under the weight of temporary failure because in your mind the outcome is already decided. Importantly, assuming success isn't arrogance. It's not pretending to be better than others or refusing to learn. It's the disciplined practice of aligning your internal state with the reality you intend to create. It demands responsibility. You must keep your word to yourself, follow through on commitments, and embody the person who naturally achieves what you're aiming for. This discipline turns assumption into action. Without consistent effort, assumption is only fantasy. But when paired with daily work, steady learning, refining skills, seeking feedback, it becomes a powerful engine that pulls your future into the present. Living with this mindset invites a quiet confidence that others can feel. People are drawn to someone who carries certainty, not because they are reckless, but because they project clarity and direction. Opportunities often flow toward those who act as if they already belong where they are going. It's not magic, it's alignment. By assuming success, you broadcast a steady signal that attracts allies, resources, and circumstances that fit your vision. To embrace the power of assumption is to step into the role of creator rather than spectator. You stop waiting for external validation and begin moving as if the outcome is secure. Each decision, each conversation, each small step then builds a bridge from belief to reality. And as that bridge takes shape, the world responds in kind, making your assumption of success not just a private conviction, but a lived truth. Focus on action is the lifeblood of every achievement, and it is the point where ideas stop being dreams and start becoming reality. Far too often people spend their days drawing plans, refining visions, and preparing for the perfect moment, only to discover that the perfect moment never arrives. Action is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter how small the first step is. Once you move, the landscape begins to change in ways that no amount of sitting and thinking could ever predict. Movement creates momentum, and momentum opens doors that only appear to those already in motion. When you take decisive action, you shift from a passive observer of life to an active creator of it. You begin to learn from direct experience rather than speculation. Each step reveals new information about the market, about people, and about yourself that no book or conversation can fully provide. By moving forward, you gather real data, and that data guides your next move far more accurately than endless theorizing. It is through doing that you discover what works and what doesn't, and this feedback loop strengthens your ability to make smarter, faster choices. There is a hidden power in starting before you feel ready. Waiting for perfect clarity is a trap because clarity often comes after you act, not before. Many of history's greatest innovators launched projects that were half-formed, improved them through testing, and refined them through relentless trial. They understood that action leads to insight, and insight leads to excellence. If you wait until you feel absolutely prepared, you may find that the window of opportunity has already closed, or worse, that your energy has withered into hesitation. Action also builds confidence in a way that thought alone cannot. Fear thrives in idle moments. It grows stronger when you stand still. But once you take that first step, fear loses its grip. Each action you complete sends a message to your own mind. I am capable. This inner proof compounds, creating a cycle of courage. Confidence is not the prerequisite for action, it is the result of it. You don't need to feel brave to begin. You simply need to begin to feel brave. Moreover, consistent action compounds over time. A single day of effort may seem insignificant, but daily effort, even if small, accumulates into remarkable progress. Consider how a single drop of water is weak, but a steady stream can carve through stone. The same principle applies to your goals. Tiny actions, repeated with discipline, create massive results. The person who takes modest steps every day outpaces the one who waits for giant leaps. Another profound effect of focusing on action is how it draws opportunities toward you. People notice movement. They are attracted to someone who is building, trying, and creating. New connections emerge, collaborations appear, and resources flow to those who are already in motion. Opportunities rarely knock on the door of someone merely thinking about their dreams. They arrive for those who are already walking the path. Ultimately, action is the antidote to doubt, fear, and stagnation. Plans are important, but plans are maps, and maps mean nothing without a journey. By focusing on action, you signal to yourself and to the world that you are serious about your vision. Each step, no matter how imperfect, transforms intention into existence. The moment you act, you stop waiting for life to happen and start shaping it with your own hands. When you decide to treat every setback as data instead of disaster, your entire relationship with growth changes. Most people fear mistakes because they believe each one is a permanent mark against their worth. But what if you viewed a mistake as nothing more than a message, a coded signal carrying useful information? This perspective turns the sting of failure into the spark of progress. You stop hiding from challenges and start seeking the lessons hidden inside them. Every misstep becomes a teacher, every obstacle a quiet mentor, pointing toward a better way. Consider the first time you tried something difficult. Maybe it was learning a new skill, starting a business, or speaking to an audience. Chances are you stumbled, yet those early stumbles contained priceless guidance. They showed you where the gaps were, which habits needed refining, and which strategies required adjustment. Without those failures, you'd still be guessing in the dark. Seen this way, setbacks are not signs to quit, they're signposts guiding you toward mastery. Approaching life with this mindset frees you from the heavy chains of fear. Fear thrives on the belief that one wrong move ruins everything. But when you see each experience as feedback, fear loses its grip. You no longer freeze at the thought of a bad outcome. Instead, you ask, what can this teach me? And then you move forward with curiosity rather than dread. This is not wishful thinking, it's a disciplined practice. It demands that you pause after each disappointment and extract the lesson before taking your next step. In the world of science and innovation, this approach is second nature. Inventors run hundreds of experiments, expecting many to fail. They document results, tweak variables, and test again. Each unsuccessful trial is not a defeat, but a piece of the puzzle. The same principle applies to personal growth. When you view life as a series of experiments, every outcome, good or bad, contributes to a larger understanding. You are not failing, you are learning how to succeed. This way of thinking also builds resilience. Resilience isn't about never feeling frustrated or hurt, it's about bouncing back because you recognize the temporary nature of setbacks. You begin to trust that every challenge contains a lesson you can use. Over time, this trust strengthens your confidence. You become less reactive, more strategic, and far more persistent than someone who dreads mistakes. Adopting this mindset also improves your relationships and leadership abilities. When you see failure as information, you extend the same grace to others. Instead of blaming or criticizing, you look for what can be learned as a team. People sense this openness. They feel safe to innovate, to speak up, and to try new approaches without the fear of judgment. In turn, this atmosphere fuels collective growth and creativity. Ultimately, learning without fear is a choice to stay in motion. It is the recognition that progress is built on trial, reflection, and refinement. You cannot reach your highest potential while protecting yourself from every misstep. The more you welcome lessons disguised as failures, the faster you evolve. Treat every experience, especially the uncomfortable ones, as essential training. With this attitude, failure ceases to exist as an ending. It becomes a continuous source of wisdom, propelling you forward toward the life you are capable of creating. Your self-image is the silent architect of everything you attempt and everything you achieve. Before you take a single step toward a goal, you've already formed an idea of who you are and what you're capable of. That inner picture shapes how you speak, how you stand, and how you respond to challenge. If that picture is small, your actions will be small. If that picture is strong, confident, and resilient, your actions will rise to match it. Success is rarely about talent alone. It's about the identity you carry when no one is watching. Think about how you walk into a room when you feel unsure of yourself. Your shoulders tighten, your voice softens. You hesitate before offering an opinion. Those tiny signals tell the world and your own mind that you are uncertain. Now imagine the difference when you see yourself as capable, worthy, and unstoppable. You stand taller without even trying. Your words carry weight. You command attention without demanding it. This isn't arrogance. It's alignment between the image you hold inside and the life you're determined to create. Building that kind of self-image isn't about repeating empty affirmations or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about steadily proving to yourself through action that you are a person who follows through. Each promise you keep to yourself is a brick in the foundation. Wake up when you said you would. Finish the task you committed to, even when no one checks. Small victories accumulate until they reshape your belief about who you are. Over time, you begin to think, I am someone who finishes. I am someone who leads. I am someone who wins. And when that belief takes root, it drives you to act in ways that reinforce it. Challenges become tests of character rather than threats to your worth. Setbacks don't shatter you because your identity isn't tied to a single outcome. You know that a temporary loss doesn't make you a loser. Instead, you treat every difficulty as confirmation of your strength. That perspective is powerful because it frees you to take bold steps others avoid. If failure doesn't define you, you stop holding back. Consider how world-class performers, from athletes to entrepreneurs, train their self-image. They visualize success not as a distant dream but as a present reality. They rehearse victories in their minds until their bodies and emotions accept it as normal. When the moment of truth arrives, they're not hoping to succeed, they're simply expressing who they already believe themselves to be. You can do the same in everyday life. See yourself making the call, delivering the speech, or leading the project. Feel the confidence of completion before you begin. Discipline is the glue that holds this transformation together. Without consistent action, self-image stays a wish. But with discipline, each day becomes evidence of your identity. You no longer need external validation, because your habits prove your strength. Gradually, people around you notice. Opportunities appear, not because luck has changed, but because you have. When you cultivate the self-permission of a winner, you no longer wait for permission to succeed. You embody success before the world sees it. And in time, the world has no choice but to match the vision you've already claimed. Discipline and consistency are the silent engines behind every lasting achievement. They don't call attention to themselves, they don't produce instant applause, yet they quietly build the structure that turns dreams into realities. When you commit to a course of action and show up every single day, you set in motion a chain reaction that almost guarantees progress. Talent can ignite a spark, but without the steady fuel of discipline, that spark dies. Consistency is what keeps the fire alive, even when the excitement fades and the work feels ordinary. Many people begin with enthusiasm. They start projects full of energy, convinced that motivation will carry them through. But motivation is a visitor. It arrives when it pleases and leaves without warning. Discipline is a resident. It stays. It shows up when you're tired, when the weather is bad, when no one is watching. Consistency is its twin, the daily proof that you mean what you say. Together they form a rhythm, a heartbeat, that sustains growth even when visible results lag behind. Think of the athlete who trains before dawn while the world sleeps. Their body doesn't transform overnight. Progress is invisible for weeks, sometimes months. But every early morning run, every disciplined meal, every careful stretch accumulates. Over time, the small acts compound into undeniable strength and skill. The same principle applies to business, art, learning, or personal development. Each small, repeated effort adds weight to your foundation until one day people call you an overnight success, when in truth, you've been earning it in silence for years. Discipline is also a decision made repeatedly. It's not a single vow that magically carries you forward. Every day you choose again to honor your commitments. You choose the difficult conversation instead of avoidance, the focused hour instead of distraction, the deliberate practice instead of easy entertainment. These choices may seem minor in the moment, but they carve the path of your future. Each disciplined decision tells your mind and body, this is who I am. I follow through. Consistency builds trust, trust in yourself and trust from others. When you consistently meet your own standards, your confidence grows. You begin to believe that you can rely on your own word, and that belief is powerful. It removes the exhausting question of whether you'll keep going. You simply do. Others notice this steadiness as well. Opportunities often find those who can be counted on, not merely those with flashes of brilliance. Discipline also frees you. At first it may feel restrictive to follow a routine or set firm boundaries, but over time discipline eliminates chaos and indecision. By creating structure, you save mental energy for creativity and innovation. Instead of battling with yourself about whether to work, you automatically step into action. That freedom allows deeper focus and more meaningful achievement. When challenges arise, and they always do, discipline and consistency hold you steady. Excitement might fade, but habits endure. The person who has practiced showing up does not crumble when faced with difficulty. They already know how to act, regardless of mood or circumstance. This reliability is what transforms temporary success into lasting mastery. So while others wait for inspiration, you continue the quiet work. While they chase quick wins, you build an unshakable base. Over weeks and years, the gap widens until your results speak louder than any promise. Discipline and consistency may whisper, but their echoes shape everything you will ever accomplish.